Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. I'm sorry this is also posted late, I had a lot of homework, but anyway, moving on. Let's get started. This is going to be a tropical update for the Atlantic and Western Pacific because that's really where all the activity is right now. So let's get started. So if we look at the National Hurricane Center map, we do see we have 4 areas of interest. We have this Caribbean one, which I still do think has a good possibility of forming. 20% chance over the next 5 days. High chance, 70% chance over the next 5 days. 20% chance over the next 5 days. And a 10% chance over the next 2 days, which I do not think will form. By the way, I'm going to speed through a lot of this because I want to get to the point. Anyway, Joint Typhoon Warning Center graphic. It's up to 130 knots in the forecast, gusts of up to 160 knots, and then it starts to weaken. It started with stalls, and these islands will get a lot of rain, wind, and stuff. Though I do think there's a possibility for it to move up north into Japan or Korea. Now, of course, it's very uncertain. We should not, I don't want to trust it yet. Though there is possibility to watch out for it, but take it with a grain of salt, but don't completely dismiss it. If we go to tropical tidbits, we see tropical storm Hindenburg more, where a lot of them show it going over. There's an island, which is bad enough because there's people living there and stuff. So there's communities there, and then or it can go to Japan or Korea. And then here are the overall tracks, which the GFS you see gets it very strong. Next, let's go to Invest 91L, which a lot show going near the Bahamas. Leeward Islands could affect there, or going out to sea a lot show tropical depression. Some show tropical storm, and some show Category 1 to Category 2. 92L, some show it becoming a tropical storm, but really not any threat. 98W, not really any threat. If we go to the forecast models for the tropical Atlantic and we go forward a bit, we do see that system over there, and then we don't really, and then we do see this system, though I'm not going to be covering it because that system is fairly new. If we go to the Western Atlantic, we do see, if we move a little forward, we do see that Caribbean system. It gets near the Yucatan, gives it a lot of rain, wind, and hits Texas-Mexico border with even more rain and wind than Yucatan. According to this, Yucatan and Texas-Mexico will both get a lot of impacts for rain, wind gusts, but the rain, wind gusts, while they'll both get pretty bad impacts if this happens, Texas and Mexico, of course, will get more enhanced impacts of all 3 of those categories on the Yucatan. Because, of course, about the Yucatan, it's weaker, not as much rain, not as much wind, but still both will get impacts. Just we're mainly focused on the Texas-Mexico area, because I will focus on both if this happens, because they're both getting impacts, but mainly Texas and Mexico, because it's going to hit more populated areas there, and especially because there's more impacts there. And I always want to focus on everything, I will, but mainly focus on those stronger areas, more affected areas where there will be bigger impacts. Did not mean to do that, sorry about that. Anyway, we do see this other system coming up north, and then a high blocks it, and it just goes into South Carolina. If we look at the 24-hour precipitation, we do see, this is in inches and millimeters. 25 millimeters is 1 inch. Around 25 millimeters is 1 inch. Though, for example, let's just for Indian Ocean, there are the same categories, like 25 is around 1. If we the third blue, Indian Ocean, Yeah, third blue, of course, is the same. So I'm just showing you that they are the same. Anyway, we do see around, I would say, up to 14 to 16 inches on the Yucatan, and then upwards of also 14 to 16, maybe more isolated, out to 20. But of course, there is more. The heavy rainfall is present in both areas, but there's most likely a little more heavy rainfall and rainfall amounts on Texas and Mexico, and of course also more widespread because the system got stronger. And we do see this other system, which it's the Carolinas pretty strong with a lot of rain too, especially near the coast. Now, of course, this is not showing as much rainfall as the other two systems, or not the other two systems, the other one system, but it's hitting two places. And of course, this is less rain than when it hit the Yucatan was a lot of rain, and when it hit Texas and Mexico it's even more rain. This is less than both of those, though this is still a lot of rain. You're seeing up to 7, 8, 9 inches in some places, still per day, still very bad. Now, of course, I wouldn't trust this completely because it's one of the first runs showing this. But I would say these rainfall ratings are pretty accurate because I usually do 24-hour. Also, there isn't really anything else in the area except some isolated rain, like always, interfering with these rainfall amounts. Especially, here you always have rain, then we have that system, Anyway, down to the rainfall amounts, let's go to the 10M winds, where we do see around tropical storm force winds here, and then around major hurricane force winds, and not as much land friction. And we do giving hurricane force winds to the Carolina coasts in this run. A 50 MB wind gusts. Winds we do see around hurricane force wind gusts on the Yucatan, major hurricane category 3 or 4 wind gusts on Texas, Mexico, and category 2 to possibly isolated 3 wind gusts according to this run. ECMWF, if we go to 12Z, doesn't really show anything. It shows this a big system, but it shows it stalling near the Bahamas, 24-hour precip. Not really giving the Bahamas much rain, but because most of it's north. Same for like wind, but it seems moving south, so it doesn't give it that much. And if we go to 0C, it was much weaker, and if we go to 12Z yesterday, much different area. So ECMWF is kind of all over in that region, so I'm not going to trust it just yet, but because it's not as consistent. Canadian should be showing nothing like usual. Okay, it does not show it affecting land at all, which is what I usually focus on. So and by the way, you might have seen that ECMWF and GFS models have been showing something in the Eastern Pacific on the left bottom side of the screen. I'm not going to be showing that because, of course, ECMWF usually fails to keep its promises, especially long range, but even short range, and it's too uncertain on and off, and I've seen no mention of it in most websites. So, and also more is going on in the Western Pacific and the Atlantic. And of course, it's not really a threat to land, or not as big of a threat to land. Been shown going out to sea, hitting land. It's just way too uncertain, so I'm not going to be covering the Eastern Pacific. And false promises all the time there in the Eastern Pacific. Anyway, moving on. We do see this system hitting the islands, gets down to 9, 20, 25, hits between Korea and Japan, and then it shows another system there. 24-hour precip, remember every 25 millimeters is 1 inch, or every 1 inch is 25 millimeters, depending on where you are. We do see a lot of rain around, maybe up to 20 inches on those islands, up to 20 inches on Korea. So around the same amount of rain, just on the islands is a little more isolated. But of course, that's because it's more on sea. But I'm going to show it there too because those islands are civilizations. I never show rain if it's not affecting land in any way. Yeah, we see all of this rain is from that system. And then if we go back to 24-hour and we go a little farther out, we do see this system bringing a lot to Japan. If we go to the 850 MB winds, we do see around major hurricane wind gusts in Korea, Japan, and same for later. 10 M winds, we're going to be seeing around major hurricane force gusts, force winds, or a super typhoon. Significant wave period. We're seeing up to 48-foot waves. And by the way, if I'm using hurricane standards, because that's what I'm used to usually. Anyway, by the way, just to show you what I mean for the Eastern Pacific, that doesn't affect the land. That's not really forming. 12Z doesn't even acknowledge any of that. That shows something going through the Baja California, but of course, if we go to 6Z, also shows something, but 18Z kind of shows it much weaker. And of course, false promises, that's a unusual track and unlikely, but if that gets much more consistent, or if it shows up again, I will cover it. Finally, I'm going to show all of you guys the ensemble, guys and girls, the ensembles. We do see that there's a lot of the GFS ensembles show something for Texas, and then a lot going out to sea. That's really it for them. I'm not going to show the 850 MB winds for this to be just for time's sake, because I know I've already covered a lot in this video. And also, I showed you 850 MB on the other models, so I don't feel like that necessary. EPS cyclones, 12Z. If we go a little forward, we do see a big Bahamas system, and that's really it. We'll quickly go back to GEFS, 18Z, and we're going to go to the Western Pacific. And of course, 850 MB, like I said, for time's sake, I'm not going to show it. And rain on the ensembles is absolute trash, no matter what. Even at its best, it's still absolute trash. I think I'd show you that, guys, in an earlier video, or whether it was on my own or an earlier video, or both. Never use rain on ensembles, it's trash. Anyway, yeah, the GFS is pretty consistent on a big system here, and then, yeah, that's kind of terrifying how it's so consistent. And then it shows hitting Japan, Korea, or those islands where people live their civilizations. That's just bad enough, too. EPS cyclones. 12 with the, yeah, pretty consistent. Hitting these islands already bad enough, but then it shows hitting much more populated areas, Korea and Japan, but of course either way, whether it hits both, one of them, either one, it's bad, because those islands, Japan, Korea, all of them have civilizations and people living on them permanently, and tourists. So yeah, we do see for the ECMWF that big system there, and then something for the Bahamas, GFS, Texas-Mexico border, South North Carolina, those Japan systems, KMA. I would usually show KMA, but I don't, like I would say about 20% of my videos was where I use weathermodels.com, I show the KMA. For time's sake, I'm not going to show it in this video, but I'll show this map where it shows something hitting Taiwan, something hitting Baja California, and these two huge out-to-sea systems. So it goes right over Bermuda, so that would still be bad. But of course, GFS does not really show anything more for the Baja California. Actually, I'm going to show, finally, I'm going to actually show the KMA, because if that's hitting Bermuda, I kind of want to see that too with you guys. So, tropical outlook is the tropical Atlantic. Let's go a little closer, and I'm just going to use the 10M winds for this parameter. Because 24-hour, what I believe is the most reliable, is not showing it here. Yeah, something hit a Bermuda. Anyway, that's all I'm going to show. And guys, I hope you guys have a great night or morning, depending on where it is. Please consider liking and subscribing. And have a great night or day. See you in the next video, guys. Bye.